Hi guys, in this video we're going to look into UV mapping, which is notoriously difficult, but we're going to power through with this video. So the process of UV mapping is turning our 3D object into a 2D shape so that we can apply a texture to it. Okay, so we are kind of undoing it somewhat. So if we have a look here, you might see texture files that look a little bit like this. So this 3D object here has been unwrapped and turned into this flat mesh here, and then this is then projected back onto this model. So we will unwrap our model, turn it nice and flat here, so our 2D texture file, our 3D model gets turned into that 2D texture file. We'd then paint it in a program like Photoshop or something like that, and then we would then import it back onto our model. So we'd apply that there. So you can see you've got the front grille here. This would then wrap around there. So there's a few things we need to do before we start. So first you want to check. So in your channel box in the top right, you want to check your scale is 111. If it's not, just highlight those, hold right click, freeze, and then freeze the scale there. So that will reset that to 1. And then we also want to make sure our history is deleted. So delete all by type history. If maybe your model wasn't as clean as it could be, maybe there was a few issues with it, maybe you've had some extra extrudes, sometimes it's good to go select all of the vertices on your model, go up to edit mesh and merge, and what this does is it merges all the verts together that are within this threshold. So it basically merges any overlapping verts. So this will help you out with UV unmapping as well. I'm just going to delete my history again just to make sure that all of that's gone. Okay, so the best way to do this is imagine it flat. So imagine how this could turn flat. So at the moment you've got the old UVs are here, so it's an arranging task that we're doing. So this is the UVs for a cube. Okay, so you may have made something like this in school where you got a flat piece of paper, you cut out bits, had little flaps, and then stuck it together and made a 3D cube. Okay, so this used to be a cube, so those are the UVs, but now it's not a cube, so we need to arrange them. So my best advice is imagine it's like a piece of paper. So I am going to select this side of my spaceship here. So that whole side there, that's going to become one UV shell, and that's because it's on its own angle, it's its own little section. I want to be able to paint that all together when I UV map it. So that's another thing you need to remember, is obviously you're going to have to paint these things, so the more you can kind of keep them together, the better it can be. So I've held shift, I've selected all of those. I'm going to go over here, so I've changed my UV from Maya Classic up the top to UV editing here, and you'll have this UV toolkit down the side. So I'm going to go to create here, and I'm going to use planar mapping. So planar map this here. If you get a little window that appears saying that there's some errors with your geometry, click on fix. It'll do its best job to fix any errors you've got as well. So I'm going to map it. As soon as I've mapped it, I'm just going to move it out of the way here. You can see I've got this checkerboard thing turned on, and I've just used this to turn off the checkerboard in my UVs. Now, some of it's worked, so these squares are nice and neat down here, or somewhat neat, and then these maybe don't look so right. These look a little bit stretched. So what we need to do is we need to unfold this. So if we go down here to unfold, and we can click unfold there. So it tells me I've got some errors here, so I'm going to always fix non-manifold geometry and press fix. So that's now fixed that, and you can see it's sort of shuffled itself around in the UV window, and now I've got these nice squares here. Okay, I'm now going to do the same with the other side. So I'm going to select this all the way here, go to the top. I am then going to select the planar map. I'm going to pull this over here. So again, it's slightly stretched. I am going to click unfold here, but this time I've used unfold along. So unfold along is going to allow it to constrain, so it tends to stay a little bit straighter. So you can see these squares are a little bit straighter than these ones. It doesn't matter too much, but it might make it a little bit easier when we're working later. Okay, so we can then do the same thing up here. Okay, so I've selected the sort of all the front faces there. I'm going to planar map those, and I'm going to unfold those as well. Okay, so you'll notice there it's kind of gone on the wonk. So if I use the one below, it sort of sorts that out a little bit more. I'd then always click the one above as well, and you'll see it just slightly shuffle there. So this one is going to keep everything nice and neat and nice and tidy for us there. So that's the front of our spaceship unwrapped there. Okay, so now we could maybe look at doing the bottom. So I'm imagining it flat. I'm selecting all of the faces that are there. Okay, so those are all flat. I can imagine these sort of folding down, staying nice and flat. Again, imagine it. There we go. So again, I'm going to use that one below unfold. You want to imagine it like a piece of paper, so it stays nice and straight. We can look at some alignment tools later in another video. So I would then keep going down. I'd maybe do the sides of the wings here. So that's all together. That could be one shell there. That's one part of the wing. So I could planar map this one. Again, click unfold there. And I could planar map the end. So this is now planar mapped, unfold. So mine's slightly errored there. So when I clicked unfold, it went slightly strange. So I'm going to click this unfold, which seems to have fixed it. Then hit the next unfold. That's done that there. So as well as doing all of this, what we can do is we can stitch things together. So this face on the end here could actually stitch onto this one here. So we could imagine them joined together and this sort of unfolding round there where I'm moving my mouse at the moment. So it could kind of flap around and we could just stitch it there. So if I click on the edge where they would join it together, and I would click move and sew. So here we go, sew here. So that's going to move it and stitch it together. Now because we've changed it, I'm just going to select that UV shell there, so it's gone a bit strange. We can then go down to unfold and unfold that part there, and then just double check our checkerboard to make sure everything's working fine. Okay, so I'd continue to do this. I might maybe choose to do this face and this face here, and planar map these together. And then again, just click that unfold. So they've now joined together. The more you kind of join stuff together and keep things together, the easier it is to paint. So if I wanted to paint a line that went over here, then it would be much easier than if these were two separate things. So if this was planar mapped on its own, we would have a seam between the two. So you can see now there's a seam. So when I have to paint these UV shells, then it would be more difficult in Photoshop to actually be able to paint across those there if I wanted to do something like a line. So you need to think about what your model's like. It might be that I do want to do a line around them, so I'd want to keep it together as much as I can. So if I planar map round these and then unfold those ones there, looks like it's had a little bit of an issue, so I've grabbed too many. Just step back, take that one off, planar map this one, unfold this one. Okay, brilliant. So there's the top ones all together there. You can see the text is going really easily over those there. So now I've got this edge here. I could maybe select those and sew those together. And then of course I want to unfold those. So now I've got that wing unwrapped slightly differently to how I had before. So it depends how you want to paint it really. Both ways were correct. So long as those squares are nice and square and even, then you're doing everything correct there. Okay, so that covers UV unwrapping there. So we've looked at moving and sewing, we've looked at planar mapping. There are other ways to planar map as well. So you could also hold shift and right click, go up to mapping and planar map. So this is how I would map my models. I would use shift and right click. You can then use shift right click again. We can go to unfold and unfold here. So that's giving us those errors. So unfold, and then we could unfold along U, shift right click, unfold, unfold the main one there. So that's sorted that out. So that's shift right click there. We looked at moving and sewing edges together, so I might maybe unwrap the back of this spaceship sort of there, and then I could maybe stitch it along this edge. And then I could do the same here, map this part, and then stitch it along that edge to keep it all kind of joined together if I want. So I would just rinse and repeat this throughout the whole mesh. Okay. In the next video, we'll look at laying out these UVs. So at the moment, you'll look, they're kind of messy. They're all over the place. So once they're all done, we'll look at how we can lay those out. Okay, thank you.